This project truly is a collaboration, and it wouldn't work without our partners that we have, and there's a list of them coming up here in a PowerPoint slide pretty soon. So I'll kind of mention that when we get there. So I'm going to try and share my screen. We call this a collaborative community history project, and it really has been a partnership. We kind of got the ball rolling here at Surry Community College, but we have a lot of community partners as well. So the history of the project, and I'm just going to try to be quite brief about this, but I just wanted you to know, we got a grant back in 2016-17. I had to go back and look in my files to see the exact year, to bring in a consultant, and we brought in a nationally recognized consultant for digital history projects. And we were able to, he spent several days here in Surry County, and he encouraged us in a big way that yes, we did have a lot of materials here, and that this would make a great project for doing a history of many things here in our county. Originally, we thought we were going to do one big grant, a multi-year grant, but it kind of morphed into being individual grants, and you can see them listed here. The first one was kind of a general one, saving our communities, and what we wanted to do in that grant was we wanted to look at all the communities in Surry County, which I think our list went up to, well, it started with about 10 or 11, and we kept adding. In fact, Esther, who's on this call, said, well, what about Bannertown? So Bannertown has an entry on there now too. So the next grant that we got was called Church and Community, and that was last year. And we did really try to do a lot with histories of churches. We're still doing a little bit here and there. People have promised things and they're still dribbling in. We still will accept materials for that part of the grant, but if anybody's stopped to count lately, there are at least 275 churches in Surry County. So that was quite a project, and we do have pictures of most of those churches, I think, out there. That was great to be able to do that project. This year, we're working on, the one I'm going to talk about today mostly, is the one called Business and Community. If you wonder what these crazy titles are, they have a limit on the characters in the title, so it really is Businesses in Surry County, but we have to shorten the title when we apply for the grant. A word about these grants. LSTA grants are federal dollars through the Institute for Museum and Library Services budget that come down to the State Library of North Carolina. We are very fortunate here in North Carolina that the State Library distributes those through a competitive grant process. Some states don't do that with their LSTA funds, but North Carolina does. We're very fortunate, and we are able to apply for those grants. This year, because you need to have a collection to digitize, Surry Community College did not apply for the grant, but the Northwestern Regional Library applied for the grant. It has to be a library. And so they're one of our partners, and so we've kind of continued the project on under their auspices this year. So that's what happens. And you know, sometimes people talk about the waste of federal money, it's all wasted and all this kind of thing. And I'm thinking, if anybody's ever dealt with an LSTA grant, every penny has to be accounted for. And the other thing, I wrote to our Congresswoman several years ago about this project, and I said, we've put people to work through this grant. So we have scanners working, and that's what a lot of the dollars that we get through this grant are, to put people on the job to scan. And so it's been a great thing for us in so many ways. All right. Here is the kind of outline of what we're doing now. There is a time limit on it. This grant ends at the end of June, and this coming June. But it's an opportunity to save items related to the history of businesses in Surry County, whether that's photos, advertisements, scrapbooks. I'm going to show you a few different examples here in a couple minutes. And in some cases, I tried to get some churches excited last year about writing up some of their histories. We did get some of them on board. Some of them already had written histories, but businesses are important too, to have kind of a history of who was there at the beginning and kind of some of the anecdotes related to businesses. And so if your business is 40 years old or more, is there some kind of at least an outline, a one-page or history? We have found a few on a website. And there's one company we were looking at the other day, and lo and behold, there's a few paragraphs about the history of their company on their website, and that's great. We borrow it and put it on the project so that it's there for future generations to look at. And so what we're asking people to do really is gather photos and other memorabilia, whether it's a flyer, an advertisement, any kinds of things like that. And if you're in the Mount Airy area, you would take it to Pat Gwynn at the Mount Airy Public Library, and she will make sure we get it. And we have 2 scanning stations, well, actually 3, 2 here at Surry, 1 at the museum in Mount Airy. So items will be scanned and then returned to the owner. So this is kind of our process that we use. What we've done is, I just did a little snapshot of the list. We've got a lot of names of businesses out there, and some you may recognize and some not. So come to the project website and start clicking on these and you'll see. Some we only have like 1 item from. And then there's others that we have a lot of information. I'm going to point out a few when we get to the live demo part. But what we've tried to do is at least list them. We haven't listed them by communities at this time, but if they are in a particular community, say Pilot Mountain, there is a tag in there, so when people are searching under Pilot Mountain, they would find it. All right, let's move on. And here is the list of our project partners. And these have been with us since the beginning. And as I said, this would not work because none of us have any money, really. So it does help to get together and kind of share what few resources we have. And it also helps take down the matching money needed for the grant from 25% to 10% when you have partners. So that's one good thing, another good thing about the partners. But you can see here, the African American Historical and Genealogical Society, Mount Airy Museum, Regional History, and I've already mentioned Northwestern Regional Library, Surry County Genealogy Association, and the Surry County Historical Society. So that's our list of partners, and when we all work together, it really makes things move along well. I don't know of another, in fact, I know there's not another county history project here in North Carolina. We're kind of unique. And when we go to the website in a bit, we are probably one of the largest projects of this kind as far as the number of items. We are over 9,000 items now in the collection. And when it says an item, some of those items are like a book. It's called one item, but there's lots and lots of pages in there. So we've got a lot of material in this collection already. So here's an example, and this is in case this is in case the live demo doesn't work. This is actually, I don't know if anybody on this call knows this one. I don't really have a date on this one, but Harry Lamar, the jeweler in Mount Airy. I love looking at these older ones. Of course, with my vision problem, I would have been the first in line to get those toric lenses, spectacles, as they're called here. But anyway, and this is a typical advertisement, and this is the kind of thing that we're looking for. It doesn't have to be as old as this, but it's a way of documenting a business that was in business at one time in one place, in Mount Airy in this case. Here's an example, and I may be able to have time to go to this. If I don't, I'm going to talk about it here briefly. Out in the Beulah community, it was called Skull Camp Dairy Incorporated. Ned and Evelyn Martin, and they're true Beulah people, been there since the beginning. This was their dairy farm, and this may not look like much, but this is actually the cover of a scrapbook. Evelyn kept a scrapbook of their business over the years, and it's amazing because it's got so much information in it about their business and about agriculture in Surry County. One of the things we had really wanted to do this year is to find things about agriculture in Surry County. We know Surry County was an agricultural county, and there's a lot of things that were going on here agriculture-wise, and so we wanted to find those. And I had actually seen this a couple of years ago when I went to their house to find. She also created a yearbook back in the 1940s. There were no printed yearbooks at the Beulah High School, so Ivy Lynn made up one for her. Actually, she made up one for Ned as well, because they dated when they were in high school. So she actually, and we put the her high school yearbook slash scrapbook on the project the very first year. So I had seen this one, and so we went and we borrowed this one. And so this is an example of a farm in Surry County. And then here's one. It actually happens to be related to Ivy Lynn too, because I wanted to show there's also a scrapbook. Now, not everybody does scrapbooks, but boy, if there's some out there, we would love to get a hold of them because they are just wonderful. Ivy Lynn's mother kept lots of materials related to Walter Sparger's General Store out of the Beulah community. The building is still there. That is in this picture. I think it's been painted since then, but now there's a Dollar General store across the street. But anyway, this is Walter Sparger's store, and there are documents in here from their 30th, other documents from their 30th anniversary celebration, but this was an ad that was in the Mount Airy News for their 30th anniversary celebration. So now I am going to, let's see, let's come out of this. We're in this long list and it's going to get longer. But right now, we're not going to divide it up by communities or anything, but it's pretty long. We realize that. We're getting ready to change the software we use, actually open source software, which is a good thing for a project on a budget. But it also has some, the search engine is not great. We hope that the new version of it, and we're going to move to a slightly different looking website, hopefully by the end of the year. And so there's a good number of things that are in change here, but we're going to keep the same. But I'm going to click on RT Joyce hardware. And here you can see you always have to click on and actually double click, 2 clicks to get into it. But this is the RT Joyce hardware. And this is a very old photo. And if you go back, in some cases, if there is a date, and some of them, this one does not have a date, but sometimes in the information that's here, this is was a Mount Airy business. So let me go back and back to the list. And then I'm going to look at the, actually going to go up one a little here to the quality mills. This is one we have a lot of information about. A lot of pictures, and these, of course, a lot of this was at the museum. I think that because they did have a lot of materials related to this project. Again, I love these old photos because they do tell us so much about what was in many of these cases of what was there. It's no longer there, but this is a great example of what we're looking for. You know, not every company has all of this, but this is a great thing to have. And we know there's more out there that aren't, that we just have to find and be put into this project. Then I'm going to go down to SF Marshall. And this is an interesting one because it's a letter and it's on a Marshall letterhead. And this actually, in order to get it big enough, and you would have to, somebody would have to be really good at reading handwriting, and because this handwriting is not as impeccable as some you see from this era, but I think it's, I want to say it's 1907. And so this is a nice example of a document from that time period, the celebrated Marshall wagon and high-grade buggies. And again, one of the things, and I'm